So I've logged in, and this is the first thing I'm seeing. So I'm a commercial user. The force commercial account list is on. So that's why I'm seeing this priority accounts section here. If I have no accounts set as priority accounts, so there's nothing that's actually being displayed here. It's just showing me how I can set priority accounts. So if I hit view all accounts, now I can actually see the full list of accounts that I have available. I can create new groups, so I can drag and drop, maybe not drag and drop. So I'll create a new group here, say my accounts, and I'll select a group here. So now we've got my, all of my accounts up here, or I can see my new group with my new my account that I selected there, and I can drag and drop my loan account, put that in there as well. And so that's kind of just how you do group or account management on the homepage here. So similar to what you would expect from the retail side, but with the force commercial account list on, this is kind of the way it looks. If we remove everything from this group, as we would expect, the group gets deleted. For every account that's listed here, we can click on this menu over here, and we can hit Make Priority. So when we logged in, we saw that that priority section was blank. We can either click Make Priority, or we can click the star icon, and these will make these priority accounts. So when we log into online banking, these will be the accounts that we see right off the bat, and we won't have to go to the all accounts list. With only 4 accounts, it might seem ridiculous to do this, but you're going to have customers that have hundreds of accounts potentially. So for them, it's going to be a much faster experience for them to be able to log in, see those priority accounts without having to kind of wade through all the accounts that they do have access to. Additionally, we can set a nickname here. Now, there are 2 options for setting nicknames. We have the global nickname. So if anybody who has access to this account has not set their own personal nickname for it, the global nickname will be what is displayed. However, the personal nickname will supersede that and allow them to see whatever name they have set if they've selected this. So kind of 2 options for nicknaming, one that's across everybody who has access to this account, and then one that is specific to you. Next, we have the quick transfer option. So this will allow you to just right from this menu here, create a transfer between the account you've selected and any other eligible account here. So you can go ahead and set this up. And if you have the correct permissions, you can draft or approve it based on what your user role allows you to do. So obviously you'll set that dollar amount here and a transfer date. You can also set this as a recurring transfer. It's within advanced options, because if you're going to be creating a quick transfer, most of the time you don't want this to be something that is recurring. You'll probably go to the transaction section for that. But you can do that here if you'd like. You can select a one-time transfer, which obviously is not recurring, or you can select a frequency here. Once you select that frequency, for weekly, you'd need to specify the date. We already selected the start date, and then we'll need to select a repeat duration, which can be forever, or an until date, which you'll need to select an end date to make that terminate. A memo is also optional, but not required. And then finally, we can click here to view the activity for this account. So this will bring us to the activity center. And we can click into any of the transactions listed below to get additional details. So for a check paid, for example, we can see the check image, the date, things like that. We can also print this transaction or ask a question. So if we click ask a question, we will see the messaging feature appear here. You can write a message, you can add a supporting document. The upside of using ask a question right here is that the transaction information is already populated into the subject. So you don't need to do that yourself. Similarly, you can print or ask a question at the account level, which will again pop it up. It will say here, regarding account number instead of the transaction. We also have the ability to export transactions. If you click this, you can see a list of export types. We can perform a quick transfer just as we could from the home screen. We can also filter the transaction. So this is particularly useful if we wanted to just see debit transactions, for example. And when we do print, it will only print the filter transactions. So we can see the debit transactions, even though these are in parentheses, which I think is not how it will appear for you, and kind of counterintuitive. And then finally, we have just the search option, which is what is there by default. So if we wanted to search based on text within the description or the amount, we could go ahead and punch in 5,000, and we're going to see here transactions that have a $5,000 amount, or potentially ones that had 5,000 as a word within the description. Finally, in the account details section, we can see the details and settings. Here we can see just miscellaneous information about the account, interest rates, things like that. And then we can also say whether or not this is visible on the home screen. So kind of moving beyond that, let's go ahead and take a look at transfers and payments. Oh, I apologize. Let's take a look at business banking. So you would probably have, this is ACH and wires. It might be commercial payments for you. So it might have a different name, but this is where we'll go to create payments, to create templates, upload files, things like that. So here in ACH and wires, below we have a list of all the templates that are available to us. So these have been created by the customer. So they've created these templates themselves. Somebody who only had draft restricted would need to utilize one of these templates to create a payment, because they would not be able to create new payments themselves. These can be used if they have permissions. They can edit these templates here as well, or they can delete them out. If we click New Payment, we can see here that there are ACH and wire options. Again, you'll be able to restrict what ACH and wire options your customers have available to them, and they will be able to restrict what options their users have available as well. If we click into ACH Batch, here we can see an ACH Batch payment. You'll need to select an SEC code. So PPD would be a payment to a person. CCD would be a payment to a business. P for personal, C for corporation is kind of how you can remember that. A company entry description can be input as well, not required though. We need to select a subsidiary, and we'll talk about subsidiaries in a moment here. But once you've kind of set up your subsidiaries, this is where you will go to find them. An example that we like to use a lot is a customer who is a property management company. They're going to have a ton of properties. And so for them, being able to set up their subsidiaries and actually send those payments as if they were coming from those subsidiaries is going to be a huge time saver for them. So we'll go ahead and select this imaginary property here. And next we'll need to select an account that this payment is coming out of. So let's go ahead and select commercial checking. And then finally, we need to select an effective date. So we can select today's date, really any date in the future here. And once we've selected that date, we can see that we can set a schedule. So just like we were looking at on the home screen with that quick transfer, if we want this to just be a one-time payment, we would not click Set Schedule. However, if we do want to make this recurring, we can click Set Schedule, select a repeat type for this transaction, and then we can select when it should stop. So either an on or an on date, a number of occurrences, or allow this to repeat forever until we manually cancel it. So we hit click, select Set Recurring Transaction. We can see here that this will now recur every month on the first of the month. Down below, we will then select our recipients. So if you have a recipient that has already been created and saved, they can be selected out of this list. Otherwise, you can create a new recipient here and fill in the information that is required here. You may save this recipient for future use, or if you want to use this without saving it, maybe it's just truly a one-time payment that's being created, you can hit Save Without Recipient, or Use Without Save, I apologize. Alternatively, if you are making a payment to multiple individuals, you can select multiple recipients that have already been saved. And here you can see all the recipients that exist within this system here, and we can select as many as we like and hit Add. It's going to bring all those recipients in, and all we'll need to do is select a dollar amount. And for each recipient, we can copy it, remove it. We can expand the row if we want to see kind of some more details here about the recipient. We can add an addendum, things like that. We can go ahead and hide those details, collapse the row back. And then we can select Do Not Notify. So when we create a recipient, we associate an email address with them. They'll be notified whenever they are getting paid or anything like that. Or we can also select to not notify them when this is happening. And if perhaps you added a recipient on accident, you can go ahead and just click the remove button and remove them there. So you can add as many recipients as you need or have permissions to. And then once all the information has been set, you can either approve if you have those permissions or save it as a draft. We can also upload from file. So if you have a file that you've potentially gotten from another system, something like that, we can always upload that file into the system and create an ACH batch that way. So we'll click upload from file. And here we have a couple of options here. So we have these saved mapping instructions down below. So we have the system standard. So these are just built right into commercial banking, the Nacha or the 5-column CSV. You can also create your own mappings. So as we can see here, Dave created a mapping on this customer at some point by clicking the new mapping button. So when you click this, you'll need to select a file, the file that you intend to upload, and you'll now be creating a new mapping that can be used moving forward. So the data within this, you'll need to actually tell the system how the data is formatted. So what is delimiting the information here? So is it delimited by a space or sorry, a comma, tab, colon, something like that, or is it just fixed width? So is every row or is every piece of information going to be the same number of characters, things like that? So we'll leave this as comma delimited for now. Here we can kind of see the a preview of what it looks like, and we can specify whether or not this information it has a header column, or if it does not. In this case, it does not. So we'd hit continue. And then now we need to tell the system what every column actually corresponds to within the context of an ACH file. So we can see ACH recipient is what's in column 1. So we know that this is actually the ACH recipient. And I'm not going to take the time to find the correct tags for all these, but we would essentially flag all of these as what they're supposed to be. Just making this up here. And once we've mapped everything, or if there are columns that don't need to be mapped, we could leave those as do not map, for example. We'll hit continue. And now we can either decide whether or not we are going to, so if you've got certain fields, you'll need to specify information. Is this a decimal value? Is this just full dollar value, things like that. But now we'll need to specify whether or not we intend to save these mapping instructions. So if we don't want to save them, then we can go ahead and hit no. Otherwise, we will need to select the mapping instruction name. So that'll be what appears when we hit upload from file. As we saw, Dave had his saved. He put his name in the mapping instructions. We would select a name here for us to use later. We can also share these mapping instructions with anybody with the same user role, or we can keep these mapping instructions to ourselves. So if it's just a file that we're going to be uploading, nobody else should be able to use this mapping, we would keep this as private. And once we've selected all that, we can see that we can now click the Finish button, and that will allow us to use that file. The system already knows what every column should be because we've specified it here, and it will save us time in the future. However, I'm just going to go ahead and utilize this existing system standard Nacha formatted file, and I'll click that. And here we can see I can download the batch file example. I can download the specifications. Or if I already have the Nacha file, I can just go ahead and import it. So I will go ahead and do that. And now when I hit upload file, it will show me the recipients, the dollar amounts that are in the file, or alternatively, what I could do is I can also save these recipients. So if I'm uploading a file and I just want to get the recipient information into the system so that I can create other types of transactions, my own manual ACHs, wires, things like that, I could save the recipients so that I can perform any other types of actions that I want and use these individuals again. For now, though, I'll just hit upload file. And we can see we'll still need to specify some header information here. So the SEC code, the account that this is coming out of, and the subsidiary that this is going to be appearing from. But here we can see the recipients. So we've got the name, the transit number, account, and the account type and dollar amount. So with all this information set, then again, if you select today's date, you'll get a same day ACH option or warning that appears. But once all this information has been set, we can approve or we can draft this transaction. So that's ACH, that's file upload. Next, we could take a look at wires here. Wires are going to be very similar in setup. So we can either specify the account, the subsidiary, which I believe is actually not working for me right now. We could select the account and the subsidiary for every single recipient that we have here, or we can go at the top and we can say we're going to use the same subsidiary and the same account for every wire in this transaction, and then just specify it once up top here. We can also, we'll need to set a date and a recurrence. I won't go through all that because we kind of just looked at it for the ACH process, and it's essentially the exact same here. So next, let's take a look at recipients. So we had seen recipients, we had seen subsidiaries. So let's talk about those recipients. Recipients are going to be people that receive money or can be targeted for ACH collections, things like that. Essentially, it's just the person outside of the institution that we need to interact with. So to create a new recipient, you could either have saved it from that file upload, or we can create a new recipient here. We'll need to select the display name, so this would be who the recipient is. And then down here, we can specify whether or not we want this recipient to be involved with ACHs only wires, or both ACH and wire. And in the case of child support, we also have wage garnishment as well. So if we just selected ACH only, we could see we only have to fill in ACH fields. If we selected wire only, we have to fill in all the wire fields, specifically the required ones. ACH and wire is going to require both pieces of information. And then wage garnishment will just be, we'll select child support, and then we have to put in the child support wage garnishment information. So once we save this recipient off, so this would be one account for them. We can add multiple accounts once we fill in this information, which I'm not going to do right now, but essentially one recipient can have as many accounts as we need. That way we can target the specific accounts for that recipient. Next, we've got our subsidiaries. And these would be, in the example we were going with of a property management company, these would be all their different properties, essentially everything that they would want to send transactions through. And here, subsidiaries can be managed. They can be edited, deleted. We can also add new subsidiaries. So just like recipients, we'll need to specify kind of what payment type they're allowed to be involved with. So we can select ACH, just put in their ACH information, just select wire, put in their wire header, or both. So subsidiaries, this is where they'd go to be set up. ACH pass-through, this section is very simple. So if you generated an ACH file in an outside system and you want to use online banking as the pass-through to get that loaded, you would just come to this section, select the file and the process date, and you would approve or draft this transaction. Next, if EFTPS is enabled within Q2 Central, the tax payment section will appear. Here you can select federal, and your customer will have access to all these federal tax forms. Alternatively, if you just want them to access tax forms from Texas, you could have them select Texas. Federal and Texas will be the only ones that will appear unless you need any other state tax forms enabled. But essentially all we would do on our end is go ahead and just add things to this drop-down list. But all these tax forms are already built in. There's not really any configuration that would need to be done here. Once they're in the right section here, they could click into any of these tax forms here and make payments from their accounts to the associated routing number for that government agency, that tax collection entity. Finally, we have user management here. So here we can see all of the users that are associated with this customer. You can see most of them are going to be, in this case, just test people. You can see myself down here, and this is the user that I'm logged in as. If we wanted to edit a user, we could click the pencil icon. If we wanted to deactivate them without fully deleting them, so make it so they can't access online banking, we can click deactivate user. We can also manage their role here. So we can select out of this list. Again, user role will need to be set before this user can log in online banking. And here we can see the login that they have assigned. So that's the user role. If we actually wanted to manage user roles, we would click that button. And within your own environment, you'll most likely have a navigation node that says user roles. In this demo environment, it's kind of hidden away. But to actually edit the user roles themselves, you would access user roles, and you can make changes to any existing templates or create your own user roles. We kind of covered this a little bit already in Central, so I won't cover this again here. But essentially, so going back to the user management page, this is where you would then create users. You could hit add user, fill in information, and assign a user role. You'll set a password for them, so login ID and a password, or not you, your customers will do this for their users. They'll set a login ID and a password. That password will then need to be changed immediately as soon as they log into online banking. And they'll go ahead and just save this user off, and if they have dual action enabled, somebody else will need to kind of verify and enable this person, this new user being created before that person can then log in.